If you were given a wish to change just one thing about the world, to create a better tomorrow, what would that one thing be? End poverty? Absolve hate? Eliminate crime? Protect the environment? Expand education? Now, before you jump to an answer, or dial in on an issue you're already attached to, please take a few ideas into consideration. First off, let's look at this question logically, strategically, and mathematically, with the intention of making the biggest impact you could ever possibly make. And let's look at this with a data-driven approach. The world has a lot of problems, so let's see how we can solve as many problems as possible with just your one and only wish, while thinking of the future we want to create. We'll begin with our most urgent issues and analyze the United States in our case study. Violent crime has increased recently, drug addiction has increased, and drug overdoses in 2020 led to 90,000 drug overdose deaths in the United States. Over the course of 20 years, we lost over 58,000 Americans to the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting armed and motivated armies, but we do more damage to ourselves in just 1 year. And these 90,000 people include working moms who take antidepressants. They are business leaders on prescription opiates. Many were not lazy, nor were they derelict. Many each year who die from drug overdoses are hardworking Americans, but this problem is just a symptom. A drug overdose death is a preventable death. Here are other preventable deaths. Suicide, 44,000 per year. Alcohol-related deaths, 95,000 per year. Murder, 15,000 per year. So far, these deaths sum to 244,000 preventable deaths. But what is the common denominator? You're probably wondering how I'm going to tie this into social emotional learning, but hold on. We aren't done talking about the problem. Not all of our problems are lethal. Our school dropout rate is 5%. That's 1 million children each year. Our poverty rate hovers at 8%, with a vanishing middle class. Our separation and divorce rate lingers just below 50%, factoring that marriage is down. Pre-COVID, out of 67 countries, we ranked 30th in math scores during NEAP testing, which is a crucial indicator of the US economy's potential to remain competitive in science and technology. The United States is currently described as a divided nation, with Americans holding resentment for other Americans because of their ideas. Racism and inequality are very difficult to analyze in a data-driven process. The data we do have is that 15,000 hate crimes were reported in 2019. The United States has room for improvement. Domestic violence impacts 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men, and 1 in 15 children. This particular problem can spill into our other problems and lead to suicide, murder, depression, and long-term harm. Finally, we need to discuss school shootings. The statistical projection for school shootings going into 2020, based on the 20-year trend line, was projected to be 52 school shootings, and COVID prevented that. So we do have one benefit from the pandemic. But now that COVID is over, how comfortable do you feel sending children back into US schools? How comfortable do you feel about your children avoiding drug addiction, avoiding suicide, avoiding depression, avoiding a school shooting? How good do you feel about the mental and emotional health of yourself and of your children? Now, let's talk about solutions. That was not fun, but we had to cover it. First off, to discuss these problems as if we are not doing anything about them is inaccurate. As a nation, we spend tremendous amounts of time, energy, and money on all these problems. People dedicate entire lifetimes to addressing these problems. But what we need to change is that we are dealing with situations after they are problems, and we are treating symptoms, not causes. For us to solve these problems, strategically and mathematically, we first need to find the common denominator. The common denominator is a widespread lack of social emotional skills. All of these problems are rooted in human behavior. Consider the idea that a human behavior is driven either by emotion or logic. It is not logical to commit suicide, nor is it logical to consume drugs and alcohol in excess. Dropping out of high school, fighting with a loved one, these are all emotional problems, which require emotional intelligence and social skills to solve. The challenge is that only 3% of Americans will ever commit to counseling, because mental health is taboo. and most people don't want to be associated with a shrink. But what about mental strength training? To address these problems, social emotional learning, also known as SEL, is needed to elevate the mental and emotional intelligence of our entire society. This is a complex solution for complex problems. SEL consists of 5 core topics. 1. Self-awareness. 2. Self-management. 3. Social awareness. 4. Relationship management. 5. Goal setting and decision making. Subtopics include the growth mindset, facing procrastination, dealing with conflict, finding the positive, mining for inspiration, practicing empathy, facing fear and anxiety, effective decision making, and teamwork. There are misconceptions about SEL. That it is only about mindfulness, or it has an agenda. These topics can be taught differently according to schools' needs and their culture, because each school is unique. So every school can select their own flavors of SEL and deploy a program that matches the needs of the community and the needs of the students. Some schools need help with setting goals and achievement. Others need help with empathy and social awareness. And most schools need relationship management lessons and self-management. The results of providing SEL at schools are significant. When students learn how to control test anxiety, test scores go up. When they learn how to focus, student engagement increases. SEL improves academic performance. Visits to the principal's office and detention assignments are reduced. Violence in schools goes down. And SEL isn't just about solving problems. For high achievers, imagine if you were taught about goal setting, inspiration, and achievement in primary school. For those who are successful at work but struggle with relationships, or those who excel socially but need help with career or financial decision making, remember, SEL is complex. It is designed to be relevant and designed to prepare one for life. Consider any other problem not mentioned here. SEL can help to identify the missing knowledge and skills that allowed and at times contributed to the problem. Now, there is no quick fix. SEL is not a one-trick pony. Improving our society requires improving the US education system, which requires SEL providers to knock on the doors of 17,000 school districts, and each one presents a mountain of challenges. Like with any initiative, funding helps tremendously. But imagine what the world will be like in 20 years from now, after we have SEL taught, trained, and tested at every school in the nation. A society of more mentally and emotionally healthy people. It's foolish to neglect highly important, large, long-term problems only to focus on small, less important short-term ones. If you focus on getting SEL into your local school district, that will make a lasting change in your lifetime. EMTs and first responders experience a certain phenomenon. A car accident occurs, and a driver is slowly bleeding to death. The bystanders pass by the accident, assuming someone else has already called 911. The driver can't call, they're unconscious. When a person who practices leadership arrives to the scene, they call 911. EMTs arrive and the driver is just 2 minutes away from death, and they are saved. Bystanders assume someone else will fix the problem, and if nobody acts with leadership, the situation becomes a tragedy. Are you the driver, the bystander, the EMT, or the leader? Our problem in this country is a lack of social emotional learning in K-12 schools. It leads to each and every other problem that we have. Pick any SEL provider in this country and help them. If you don't have time, donate to support them. It doesn't need to be Resilience Incorporated, even though our Selena program is fantastic. Now, let's get back to our original question. If you were given a wish to change just one thing about the world, to create a better tomorrow, what would that one thing be? The trick about making the one wish is that you only get one. But if your answer is to teach social emotional learning in every school in the country, you'll make a lot of other wishes come true.